My name is Laurie Gagan, and I am joined by my amazing co hosts again today, Kathleen Hallal, Patti Reiss, and Jessica Endiicott. So, welcome to Main Street Media Utah.com. We are the Wellness Crusaders, and our mission is to educate and empower you to make informed choices for your health, the health of our children, our communities, and our earth. We are committed to fostering a world where the balance between human health and environmental stewardship is respected and nurtured. Join us in the holistic and transformative journey as we work together to create a healthier, more harmonious world for all. And we are hopeful that you will join us in the crusade. So, welcome, ladies, again to the Wellness Crusaders. I'm honored to have all three of you on our show this evening. So, Kathleen, Jessica, Patti, let's talk about our upcoming new year and what our hope and desire is for the state of Utah, as well as surrounding states, on what we will be doing on this journey. So I don't know who wants to start first, so I'll let one of you start on what your part will be in this wellness journey.
Patti, why don't you lead? We had some ideas this afternoon about.
Okay. Well, welcome everybody. It's so good to be here, and happy almost New Year 2024. Wow. Can't believe that. I hope everybody had a nice Christmas and holiday, and we were discussing about obviously the new year coming. And I wanted to share a little bit about my experience over the holiday with just taking care of my health and looking at ways to bring my health to another place while I'm eating out at my sister's or going out to a restaurant. I had an experience on Christmas Eve where I went to my sister's house and I wasn't sure of the menu. So I want to talk a little bit about going out to eat because a lot of us are still going to do that. We're going to talk a lot about making food at home, but we're also going to be going out to eat. We're going to go over to other people's houses for dinner. So I went to my sister's house for Christmas Eve, and on the menu there was basically pork sandwiches. I don't eat pork. Generally, I don't eat pork. So I decided that I'm going to bring along a few allies with me. So I took along just in case, because I wasn't sure of the menu. Last year she had salmon, so I was good to go, and vegetables. But this year it was just pork. And then I'm not sure of the bread. It was like a wheat bread with pork sandwiches and then a coleslaw, which was actually delicious. But for me, I was like, okay, I'm not going to digest things that well, but I want to enjoy the food that was presented from my sister and at the little Christmas Eve party. So I brought along hydrochloric acid. And if you don't know what that is, it helps you digest. So that was one of my allies that came along. I also, friends, brought along enzymes to help me digest as well too, because these work like magic. And the last thing I brought, and I'm not saying you need to bring all of those, but whatever allies you want to bring along to help you digest food while you're eating out, especially during the holidays, I brought a supplement called Deflect. Now, what is that? So this is a supplement called Deflect A. Part of the work I do with meal planning and food and personalized food is I look at the blood type. So I'm blood type A, and Dr. Peter Diadamo, who started Eat Right for Your Type, and there's a great website. We'll make sure that's in the links and also on our website, on our resource page. So this supplement helps me eat foods that are on my avoid list. So I'll just go into that just a little bit. I'm blood type A, and I don't do well with any like red meats or pork. Most people don't do that well with pork, but I'll just throw that out there. But anyway, so by taking this along with my enzymes and the hydrochloric acid, I was able to eat my sister's dinner and not have a reaction. And what would my reaction be? Brain fog, skin rash, a lot of digestive issues. I didn't have any of that. I also blessed my food. So I want to throw that out there too, because you may not have your enzymes on hand, but you can also bless the food too. So I wanted to share a little bit about that. I also wanted to share that I made some treats over the holidays, and I was showing some of the gals earlier today. You can take, and now I'm going to move into food just a little bit. So a lot of us like to eat, treats over the holidays, cookies and cakes and things like that. So we can also make, and I'm showing this, I know a lot of you might be just listening, but I'm showing a lemon square here. I'm going to eat it right after the show. And this is
Yum.
Yum. This is basically an upgraded lemon square. So you can take, we're calling it sexy, what do we call it? Sexy food conversion. So any recipe that you have from your grandmother, or you can pull it up online, you can take that and upgrade it to a healthier choice. So what we're talking about today is a healthier you for the new year. And the more we can do that, the better we will feel. And we don't have to give up stuff. People are like, well, you have to give everything up. No. That is not the case. You just have to upgrade it a little bit. I want to show you my other thing that I made. And this is a pumpkin almond cookie. So for those of you calling in, you won't be able to see it, but it's made with almond butter and pumpkin and ground flax seeds. Again, this could be, you could have this for breakfast. It will balance your blood sugar because it's got protein in it and it's got egg. So I wanted to share that because we can still have foods that we love. We just need to start upgrading them and not using the flours that are out there in the stores. We need to really look and see what flours we're using and get the glyphosate-free flours, get the non-GMO flours, really start looking into our kitchens and our pantries and upgrading things. So I don't know if anybody else wanted to add more onto that.
Well, Patti, share what kind of flour you found, a Utah flour company, and then also promise people to share your delicious recipes.
Yes, I will share the recipes. The flour is from Gusty Grains, and actually Jessica turned me on to it. We were very excited about a month ago. Jessica said, I found this flour, and then sent me the website. So it's GustyGrains, I think, .com. If you go to that, it's here in Utah, and they make a fermented glyphosate-free bread. And I went through the website, and the information is so fantastic because the guy who started this company, he had a lot of digestive issues. And Jessica, you can help me with this as well too, because I know you did some vetting on this. He had a lot of digestive issues. He had friends that had celiacs and all these reactions to gluten. So the tagline it's Gusty Grains, but then the tagline is, I can eat gluten again. Because what happens is when the bread is fermented, it's a double fermentation. The fermentation eats the gluten. So for most folks, and I'm somewhat sensitive to gluten, but I know Jessica was really sensitive to gluten. And maybe you can talk about your reaction to the bread, because you didn't, that you didn't have any reaction.
No. Well, and Patti, I think it's Gutsy, Gutsy.
Oh, Gutsy.
Yeah, Gutsy, like your gut.
Right.
Yeah, but typically when I eat anything that's contaminated with gluten, I will immediately get a rash around my mouth and I will start to have heart palpitations. So for me, it is a very big sensitivity. And when I found this grain or this bread, because I found it, it was already pre-made, and I got the molasses one, the dark brown one, and immediately, like, I ate like 3 or 4 pieces, had no reaction. Was eating it like every day, all day long, because I'm like, what? I can really have bread. It's so great.
Wait, so they sell either bread or flour, both?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, the bread is sold at Redmond Farms. For those of you who are local in Utah here, Redmond Farms sells it. And if you go to Gutsy, did I get that right, Jessica?
Gutsy,
Gutsy.
GUTYgrains.com.
Mm-hmm. You can look up the locations. There's different locations in Salt Lake City and around Salt Lake City. The flour, you have to actually go to the plant and get it, and you've got to ring the doorbell. I sent my husband down to get. I'm like, you've got to go get that flour so I can make these lemon squares and almond almond cookies. And actually his gravy was made. We made a gravy with our turkey for Christmas, and it was delicious with this flour. So the plant is in Provo for those of you who are local. And I'm not sure, I don't know if they mail stuff. I really don't know that. You'd have to look it up on the website, but there's so much information about people and testimonials about people who have had complete reactions to any kind of gluten. And so this brings us back to like the healthier you, looking at where your foods are coming from and how you can still eat well. You just have to source a little bit better. And that's what we're going to be sharing on the show.
Yeah, I wanted to share that I found a flour that I think it comes from Minnesota. It's called Sunrise Flour Mill, and it's a similar kind of flour, I'm guessing. Ancient grains, very low gluten, and people who are celiac or have digestive issues, many of them, if you read the comments, it's the same thing. It's like 4 stars, 4 stars, 4 stars. Everyone's so excited because they can eat bread again. So some people can tolerate or support these ancient grains better, and there are suppliers now raising these organic grains, so you can. I know Sunrise ships everything. They have cornmeal, they have regular flour, they've got whole wheat flour, they have pastry flour, they have I think they have oats, they have pancake mix, they have a few things, they have some pastas. So yeah, it's really exciting to find things that people can eat without having any digestive issues, that are also delicious. I mean, these flours and these products that I've had are just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So
Ginger Cafe is another one. It's down in Springville.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a good place that has the Gutsy grains bread.
And you can have meals there too?
Yes.
Oh,
You
it's a
can have
great
really
cafe.
good, delicious, nutritious, organic meals.
Yeah, we want this. I mean, in conjunction with this podcast, we're going to give you all the resources we have that we've found for our families, so that when you upgrade to a cleaner diet, you'll still be happy. Your family will still be happy. So what's the name of the organic place where we met? That, oh my God, it's so good.
Oh, Rawtopia, Omar.
Rawtopia. Oh my goodness.
Delicious.
It's a restaurant. They have everything. It's amazing. What is the name of the town that it's located in?
It's in
Murray, Utah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was an interesting. I'll talk a little bit about Rawtopia for those of you who are in Salt Lake, or if you come to Salt Lake. It is a great restaurant. And one of our colleagues, Christina Veselak, came into town a year ago, and she is the founder and director of the Academy for Addiction and Mental Health Nutrition. And, she came in for a quick drop in, and I said, I've got to take you to this restaurant. So I took her there, and then we all met there for the first time. But it used to be just a vegan restaurant, and the owner was sharing with me the story how he ended up going to Lebanon for a couple months, and he could not get enough vegetables. They weren't, what was available were eggs and lamb. That was what was sourced in his area. So he ended up having eggs and having lamb after a long time being vegan. And we're not telling anyone what to do about their personalized diet, but when protein is not, when you take protein out of the diet, it's really hard to have a balanced brain and get the right amino acids in. So he started adding it to the restaurant. So now he offers wild caught salmon and bison burgers,
Nice.
along with beautiful, amazing vegetables. And that's what we want to share is like, let's bring these vegetables and clean meats and good oils into your life, and that will help create a healthier you.
So Patty, I have a question for you. For some of our listeners who might be vegan or vegetarian,
Yes.
I, for the last month myself, have really just been concentrating on fruit and vegetables and quinoa. So, for some of our listeners, not to get off the beaten path of what our journey for 2024 is going to be, what are a couple suggestions for people to get protein, who need their amino acids, but who really don't eat meat, nor do they eat fish?
Okay. Well, I would recommend, I mean, we're going to get to the food part, but I would recommend right off the bat a total amino solution, which I'm showing right here, particularly for people who are having any type of anxiety or depression, any mental health issues. We really need to support the neurotransmitters. And if you're not eating meat, those of people listening, then this is a total amino solution. It's actually a vegan formula. But at least you're getting a baseline of the aminos in all of them that are necessary. And then I would start bringing in, one of my favorites is adding hemp seeds into the diet. Hemp seeds by far are one of the best vegan sources of omega-3s and protein, and a tiny bit of chlorophyll too. So I just have people add it to their rice, add it to their peanut butter and jellies, add it to, well, if you're vegetarian, you're doing eggs. So at least, but for vegans, add it into oatmeal, just keep adding in hemp seeds. Also nuts obviously have some good amount of protein too. But when you soak the nuts, you raise the protein content. So that's another way to do that. Soaking the nuts, soaking the quinoa. Like if your quinoa is a great grain because it is the highest grain. And if you can find red quinoa out there, that has the highest amount of protein. I haven't been able to find it. It's usually a multicolored one. There's a little red in there. But honestly, about 4 years ago, they used to sell at Smith's up the street from my house, organic red quinoa in the bulk. I was like so excited about that. It's harder to find, but you can find that. So quinoa is a great grain. Rice and beans. If you're going to do a grain, you want to add a bean to it. And again, all the soaking is important. Sprouts, microgreens, particularly broccoli sprouts, all the sprouts have higher protein content too. So starting to add more of that in. Nutritional yeast is another vegan additive you can add in. It's like a flake, but it has a lot of the aminos and vitamin Bs. And a lot of folks, even vegan restaurants, use that to make like a cheese sauce. I made a great macaroni and cheese. We did use cheese in it, but you can make it vegan too without, with nutritional yeast and turmeric and coconut milk.
Okay. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
And for our listeners that really don't know what amino acids are because maybe they haven't had enough time to do research, there are actually 9 essential amino acids that your body does not make, and you have to get them from protein foods. And when you're a vegetarian, it's harder to get these amino acids because you have to dig a little deeper and eat a little more in order to get it. So to recap that, there's 9 essential amino acids that your body does not make. And the amino acid supplement that Pati was showing, and we can provide you more information if you're interested. You can just, call in and we can talk about it a little bit more. You can send us an email at info@wellnesscrusaders.com. Your body doesn't make those amino acids, and some of the amino acids, like tryptophan, are stripped away when these farmers spray these toxic chemicals into the soil. But I'm sure Kathleen is going to share some of the information on her upcoming podcast next month, as well as maybe in this call. So thank you, Patti, for sharing that information.
You're welcome.
And Jessica, why don't you talk about what your goal is for this journey?
Well, my goal is to educate, of course, but my big history is mindfulness, bringing awareness to not just our food, but our life, right? It's a lifestyle change. And how do we have more awareness, not just with the food, but with even our words and our actions? And there's just so much I want to share, but I'm just going to keep this simple and short so that it doesn't overwhelm people. But I wanted to also touch a little bit on Patti's experience with her cookies, or her food, and my experience with my cookies, because she shared these beautiful cookies. And I made some delicious almond flour chocolate chip cookies. I made 3 dozen of them. And I think I only gave 6 away. I just ate and ate and ate and ate them because they were so delicious. Now, this is not mindfully eating, right? I was not mindfully eating. I was actually eating for comfort, and I was the holidays are hard. Let's be real. Like, the holidays are hard for a lot of us, especially if we have a loved one that's no longer here. And I got news that my mother-in-law was in the hospital, and so I was mindlessly eating, right? But let's talk about how you can mindfully eat, because I think that it's important. There's so many of us that are just grabbing food. We're eating at our desk. We're eating as we're driving. We're not thinking about what it is that we're putting in. And then you've had moments, I'm sure, where you've sat there and then you're like, I didn't even taste that. Did I really eat all of that? Where did it go? Like, I want another bite, right? Like, I want another bite, but it's gone because you've just sat there mindlessly eating, just chowing down on it. Grazing is one of the things that we want to be careful with, because grazing can also create upset for our digestive system. It's just as important for us to rest and digest as it is for us to sit down and eat a meal. So when we're sitting down and eating a meal, we really want to engage all of our senses. So there is a beautiful teaching by Thich Nhat Hanh, who is a Buddhist teacher, and he wrote the book Peace in Every Step. So it's an incredible book. And with this, there's an article in there that talks about the piece of paper, right? So when you look at a piece of paper, you see a piece of paper, right? You see the lines, you see the holes, you see the paper. But in mindfulness, it goes beyond that piece of paper. So in mindfulness, if you're looking at it, you actually see the wood that went into it. You see the rain that watered the tree. You see that there was sunshine that shined down on the tree, giving the tree life. You see all the hands that went into it. So you see all of the people who participated in bringing the piece of paper to us. You see all the factory workers. You see the lumberjack. You see the truck driver who got the tree onto the truck to get it to the factory, right? So this piece of paper is not just a piece of paper anymore. It is everything that goes into it. So going to our food, a piece of lettuce is not just a piece of lettuce.
And Jessica, that's a beautiful way to put that out there.
Yeah, and I think that, so many of us are not aware of it. We are just so focused on get this done. Let's eat. I'm hungry. Let's get it done. Let's move on. But we're not thinking about the bigger picture of everything, right? But this piece of paper gave life. It gave people meaning. It gave people purpose in their path too, to get it to us. So when you think about a piece of lettuce, or you think about this cookie, look at it and think about it even further. So this piece of, I'm going to go back to the lettuce, because the lettuce comes from the ground, right? What goes into the ground? It's our soil. And in the soil, there's also the water. There's also the sun. There's also the gardeners. There's also the farmers. There's also the ones that are out harvesting our plants. There's the ones that are washing our plants. And then from there, it goes to packaging or to the grocery store. And then the workers are putting it on the shelves and displaying it for us. Or we're going to the farmer's market and we're getting it from there. And so when you look at it from a different perspective, now you're having a lot more gratitude for what it is, right? You're having a lot more gratitude in your life, a lot more gratitude for the food that's right before you. And when you eat, preparing your food is so important, because you start to engage your senses. You start to engage the digestive system. So now the digestive system is flowing with juices. Your mouth starts salivating. You're creating a new relationship with your food. You can see the textures of it. You can smell it. You can see the colors of it, the beautiful, vibrant colors of it. You can see this new life. If you're looking at this plant that's before you, or this piece of food, or even if it's meat, right? And talking about meat, there are animals that came to this earth specifically to give us life. That is their purpose. They chose to come down here to give us life. So when you look at that and you honor it, the plants are giving us life. The foods are giving us life. They're giving their life, so we have life. Okay, so let's cook a little bit. Let's chop up a carrot. Let's go through this process. So you're going to take the carrot. You're going to look at the carrot, and you're going to notice the texture on it. Notice the skin on it. You can peel the skin off if you want. I never peel the skin off, though, because the skin is just as nutritious. You can wash it in some clean water, and then you can peel it and then start chopping it and listening to the way that it sounds as you chop it. You can taste it, and as you taste it, put it in your mouth. Close your eyes and just allow it to sit for a moment. And you allow it to sit and create a new relationship with it. See if you can see the colors of it. Notice the texture of it with your tongue. Notice the saliva flowing in your mouth. Notice your tummy rumbling and getting ready to eat. And you can do this with any food, right? You can do it with a cookie. You can do it with anything. And then slowly begin to chew it. And take the time to actually chew it. And as you swallow it, try tracing it all the way down your trachea and into your stomach. And feeling it and being with it. You can even, so you can even break the carrot closer to your ear, or any food closer to your ear, so that you can hear the sounds of it. Peppermint patties are really fun to do it with. Even though I'm not they're not that healthy, but if you do it, you break it by your ear and it goes, ah. It makes like this beautiful ah sound. Okay, when we do this, when we eat this way, we're slowing down. We're not only slowing down our digestive system, but we're shifting out of fight or flight. When we're eating and eating and eating mindlessly, we are in fight or flight. We are in our sympathetic dominant state, and that's not good. We can't heal when we're in that state. But when we come into the rest and digest, that's where more gratitude comes. That's where more healing can happen. We're able to digest our food. Our body can grab the nutrients that it needs from it. Our bowels can work again. Like it's just this beautiful, beautiful process and this beautiful relationship.
Well said, Jessica. Can you give our listeners like some tips on a busy lifestyle and how they would give a younger child, 4, 5, or 6 years old, how they would be able to maybe start working with their child on how to slow down the eating process, since so many kids just tend to, cram food in their mouths nowadays?
Yeah. So there's a lot of good things that you can do with your kids. I would bring them into the kitchen. They have some incredible little cooking things and knife sets on Amazon that you can get that are safe for young kids. So, and make one big meal at least once a week with your children, and then you can use that. So that can be your quick go-to, right? Make a big meal with chicken and rice and veggies and yumminess, and then you can reheat that throughout the week. But doing a breathing class with them, my 5-year-old granddaughter is learning breath work at her school. And she's so excited to teach me, teach anybody about it. But breathing, say a blessing. There's some yummy little protein drinks that you can make, even a protein shake. That's going to be really quick and easy for children to participate in, and something that you can grab and go, but you can still eat it mindfully, right? Tell your child, what can you taste in it? Can you taste the raspberries? Can you taste the blueberries? What are you tasting? And help them to engage their senses as well. Did that answer that question? You're muted, Laurie.
Sorry, I muted myself there. Thank you for sharing that. And we really look forward to what you have coming up in January of 2024 and thereafter. So, Kathleen, why don't you tell us a little bit about your upcoming journey and what you will be sharing with our listeners?
Kathleen's muted now.
I'm muted.
Can hear you now, Kathleen.
You can hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. My screens are completely frozen, so I can't see any of you. But
The power of technology.
yeah, I think what I'd like to talk about is revamping your pantry and cleaning that out, and flipping your pantry is the expression I came up with. And I want to help people to find the right products so that they can buy the best products for their family and find the ways to budget and where to shop and do it in a practical way. And this has the way of, connecting you back to the farmers who are farming regeneratively. There are sort of, better and best and mid kind of, places you can go and approaches you can take to flipping out your pantry. And a lot of times when people say in the new year decide to do this, it seems intimidating and it seems expensive and people get overwhelmed, but you can do it step by step. And even in my house, it took us, I would say, about a year to completely switch over, the brands we were using, and to get used to using healthier brands, and to make buying cleaner foods your habit. When I go into sort of regular grocery stores now, it feels a little bit unfamiliar to me. I'll go in and I'll look for the organic sections and I'll find the products I need. But I'm much more at home now in markets like Natural Grocers. But I shop at Trader Joe's, Costco, Walmart even has some organics. My favorite place to shop is a farmer's market because you can meet farmers directly, and very good farmers will oftentimes allow you to come visit on their farm. And so you can see their operations if you wish. They have an open door policy. And if you have kids, it's a great way to get kids into this movement, because if you take them to visit farms and see farmers and see how carrots grow or goats live or whatever, they can be, more inspired to eat clean and healthy foods. Kids love animals, and kids are very interested in where our food comes from. And if they think it just comes from, Smith's grocery store or whatever store you have on the corner, then they'll never really understand the connection of all of us to the earth and to healthier food. And switching over can be very fun for the whole family. You can get your kids involved in the shopping, in the cooking, and then they'll be a part of it. Your whole family will be a part of it, and you won't feel like very alone, like you're kind of cracking down and saying, okay, kids, we're going to eat this now, and it's not going to be that fun, and this is new, and this is what we're going to do. And no, it can be a family project, and it can be fun, like Pati alluded to. If you find the right recipes that your family likes, it's great to transition. Plus, at the same time, you all start feeling better, and you'll just notice benefits. You'll start to notice benefits as the months go by, and as you progress, and as you flip your pantry. And you will never want to go back to buying the commercial, industrial raised food. It won't be a big deal for you to drive past Burger King and not even stop. You'll be like, oh, I don't even notice these places anymore. The other day, someone was giving me directions and said, you just turn left past where the McDonald's is. And I had to ask them for a different reference because I didn't know where it was. So you just stop seeing these places, you stop craving these foods, and you start craving the healthier foods. And you have more fun cooking with your family at home, or seeking out, little organic cafes, or hitting the farmer's market. So that's kind of what I want to focus on. I mean, that's for the new year for everyone. That's my wish, to help you all transition and to understand from farmers and professionals why you should switch over, how it benefits the planet and benefits your health, and then give you some tips on how I went through it. And I know that we all have started on this journey, and we all switched over, and we can give you tips and references and help you to do it too.
Oh, that's awesome. So Kathleen, you shared your story on our last podcast last week, where you talked about how you worked to heal your own son's lives. So give the parents who are listening maybe some tips and tricks as they clean up the poisons in the pantry. Like, what were some of your experience? Like, how did you combat maybe your son going from eating mac and cheese to eating a healthier version of mac and cheese? What were some of the things that you struggled with that now, looking back, will be helpful to other parents?
Well, that was actually, it's easier now. I think it's easier now than when we transitioned, because there are so many products in the market, and you just change for a different product. There's Annie's mac and cheese now. So you would just buy the organic Annie's brand instead of the junky Kraft. So a lot of times it's just a 1-for-1 switch. It's not that hard. Things will taste slightly different, and your family will be used to certain brands that they bought, or different types of cereal, but you just do kind of a 1-for-1 exchange. Instead of buying Kellogg's cornflakes, you'll buy Cascadian Farms cornflakes or some other brands. And when you start shopping at stores like Sprouts, Natural Grocers, Whole Foods, even Costco and Walmart, just choose the organic selection. At Costco, look for the green signs and buy what's under that. And it's, it does cost more. Your grocery bills will go up, but you'll save money by not eating out and not buying fast food, which in the end is very expensive. So, and to Pati's point, you learn to sort of be prepared if you're going out, if you're going on a plane ride, traveling, going to a family member's house, a sporting event, you can pack healthy snacks. And, I'll tell you, in my family, we do sort of a combination of things. I'll let kids still, if they really want to have a hot dog at the baseball stadium or the hockey game or whatever, I don't prohibit them from having anything. But we pack along our own snacks too. And at the door when we go in, which is true, my kids had food allergies. And so normally they would say, like, we would go to Ducks games in Anaheim, and they would say, oh, you can't bring food in because they want you to buy all their food. And I would say, well, we can't eat your food because my kids have food allergies, and then we could come in with our food. So, but you know, if we were careful, if there was something that I didn't bring that the kids really wanted that wouldn't cause them to have a reaction, I would let them go off sometimes. So there are some balances and compromises that you make as you go along, but if you come prepared with healthy snacks in your bag or your purse, then the battle's not so hard.
Okay, that is perfect. Can any of you just briefly explain, not that we want to go, we're going to probably have a whole series on this, but can someone explain to our listeners, when you're going to buy produce at a conventional grocery store, what's the difference between the number 4 on the label and the number 9 on the label?
What do you mean by label, Laurie? What do you
Well, the
mean
little
by label?
peel sticker that's on an apple or banana or an
On the
orange.
barcode. You mean on the barcode, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Patty, we can't hear you.
Anyone want to comment on the difference between the 4 and the 9 so parents know?
Patty's wanting to, but she's.
I'm gonna, but I can't be. I'm muted.
There we go.
I can hear you.
We can hear you.
Oh, you can hear me. Oh, how nice.
So,
Thank you for that, Laurie, and Jessica as well too. I love the mindful eating. There's so much around that because, anyway, I'm going to come back to the question though because I can veer off with so many thoughts. So the 9 is what we want people to look for. Obviously, the 9 is organic. The 4 is conventional produce, and we want to stay away from that. The little bit in your budget that goes up is well worth it, folks. Please join the crusade. We need to not be having the pesticides on the foods. Not only that, we don't have the minerals in the foods. It's like completely lowered in the conventional. There's hardly any calcium in there. So we really want to make sure that we're looking at the 9s. And the other thing I would add too is try and see where it's coming from. Like I was going to pick up some oranges the other day and they were from Chile. You know, we can get organic oranges from Florida or from California. So just be mindful of that, like our carbon footprint. Like, okay, I'm gonna pick an orange from Florida, and look for the 9s. We don't want to eat the 4s. The 4s is it's conventional, raised, pesticide laden vegetables and fruits, and we want to move away from that and be feeding ourselves and our children and our families organic food. Jessica.
yeah, so I just wanted to add to that too of like why it's additionally important to buy organic products, because when we're purchasing organic products, we're also supporting the organic farming.
Yes.
And when we continue to do that, we're also taking a stand saying this is what we want more of, right? We want more of this. We want more organic farming. We want more organic produce. We want more humane treatment of the animals too. So I think that there's the mindfulness part of it, right? There's the awareness, is having that awareness that when you're purchasing organic, you're also helping to support the health of our planet too.
Great.
Very well said. And then one last question before I talk a little bit about my journey. Do parents necessarily need to buy everything organic? I mean, are there some things when money is tight, like what about a banana? I mean, conventional bananas are probably okay.
Lord, can you hear me?
Yes.
If you go to ewg.org, they have the list of the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15, I think it is.
Yes, and it's free.
Yeah, and they'll advise you, like, generally speaking, produce with thicker skins are, if you have to compromise, then you buy the produce with skin on it so you can peel it, versus berries or things like that you don't peel.
Of course.
Yeah, those would be the berries and so on. Pay up for those, but fruits and veggies with thicker skin in general, they say that's where you can cut back. I don't know if you want to add to that, Patty.
Yeah, that's right. And like avocados, things like that, avocados, bananas, like oranges even, I was just talking about oranges, but the orange, we're not eating the outside of the orange as we would an apple, so like I would, suggest people get organic apples if they can. And a lot of the farmers in the markets, they may not be certified organic, but they're not spraying. So being able to talk, if you go to your farmer's market, I mean, they'll let you know that I'm not certified organic, but I don't spray, because they have to go through a process and it's expensive. So just talk to the farmers,
Right.
if you go there. But also, oranges, anything that you have to peel, that you could, if you're on a budget, then you can, go for the conventional for that, because you're peeling off the skin, so you're not getting it in. Mm-hmm.
And I always try to tell the clients that I'm working with that, listen, if organics isn't in your budget, at least choose like the non-GMO and some of the other foods, because the non-GMO, at least it's verified. And for those of you who don't know what GMO is, it's genetically modified organisms. So basically, if there is a GMO food, and you will see it on some of the cans right now, with some of the food products like Campbell's and Tyson, that they're saying that it was made with genetically modified organisms, which basically means that it has been sprayed. The seed has been sprayed to resist the herbicides that farmers are spraying. So it's kind of a double whammy of toxins that you're getting. So, but we'll probably have a whole show on 4 versus 9, organic versus conventional, non-GMO versus GMO, because again, we're here to educate you and empower you to be a better consumer when you're looking at labels, because it's label reading that's super important. I always say, listen, if I have to Dr. Google ingredient that isn't something that I want to buy, and this includes skincare products, then I probably shouldn't be putting that in my body. But I'll just give a little bit about me. Again, my name is Laurie Gagan. One of my greatest passions as a Dr. Amen brain certified health coach is truly working with the gut brain axis. I'm also located in Utah, and I have a private foundation where I actually do Dr. Amen brain gut health coaching for parents across the country, gratis, meaning if I'm not testing for something like leaky gut or mold or something like that, my coaching to help get them started, I don't charge. It's important for me to get the education out there. I realize as a mom myself that, moms and dads are busy. They don't have time to research what the difference is between 4 and 9. And sometimes when they're in the grocery store, grocers are really good at marketing more poisonous food because they can put them on sale because they're cheaper. So when they're looking at the labels and they don't understand it, they don't really necessarily have time to do the research. So that's really what my passion is that I really want to help empower not only parents, but the elderly adults that we're seeing right now that have autoimmune issues like dementia and Parkinson's and Alzheimer's and things that scientifically can be related to the pesticides and the herbicides that the farmers are spraying on the produce that people just don't know. So it's important really for me to get the education out there, which is, I was super honored to actually help host this up because I believe it gave us, all 4 of us, a way to get the truth out there without being censored by big government or big pharma or big ag, because we can really truly talk about what is the truth. And we, as moms and wives, I mean, we're human. We all make mistakes ourselves. You heard Jessica. She made at least like organic gluten-free, but it was so delicious. And she had some issues going on in her life that she didn't stop at one cookie. She probably, Jessica, how many did you eat? I'm going to put you on the spot.
Oh gosh. So if I only gave 6 away, I ate 30 in 2 days.
So, I mean, there you have it.
Here's to honesty.
We all make our own mistakes. So we just want to give our listeners a way that we can help empower them. So, and again, that's my goal. I've got a website called lucky2beme.org. It's the number 2 on the Lucky to Be Me. And basically you can go on there and you can find like resources about who I am and Dr. Amen's work and mindful meditation, stuff that Jessica really does. You can find work on there. And you can always email us at info@wellnesscrusaders.com. And you can email your questions in, or what do you what type of information do you have for this, as we are starting to build our resource guide for you, our listeners and viewers, and that will be free. And when I say the word free, I mean, it's an email and it's not going to cost you a penny. There is no buy-in. There is no trick. We don't want you to sign up. All we really want you to do is spread the word on mainstreetmediautah.com. There's a whole group of us. It's just because we are the Wellness Crusaders. There's other groups that talk about politics and, what's coming up with the election. Obviously, we want you to tune into us. But there is a lot more out there that Main Street Media Utah is offering the state of Utah, and obviously other viewers across the United States. So that's what my journey is all about. I will be bringing in doctors to interview on basically the gut and the brain and inflammothrombotic disease, which is really just inflammation. And, it's when inflammation goes from systemic to chronic. It's 99% of the root cause of all diseases out there. And it's going to be information that you're not going to get most of the time from your medical doctor. Why? Because, there are a lot of great conventional medical doctors, but they don't have the time to go back to school and spend the years that we have as health coaches and practitioners and what it takes to get certified. I mean, just alone, Kathleen's certification and what she had to go through. I mean, I looked at that certification process thinking, oh, maybe I should do it. And I started going down that rabbit hole, and I'm like, I just don't have the mind, the throughput to do that. So, I mean, collectively, the 4 of us have so much to offer you. And again, we want to empower you and give you a resource and a place to go where you can really find out the truth and the answers to the questions that you may not have the resource for. So I don't know, does anybody want to add a little, a tip in?
Well, I would. This is Patti. I just pulled up, Laurie, Kathleen was talking about the looking at flipping your pantry. And so I wanted to share, and we'll have this on our resource page. There's a great book called The Pantry Principle, How to Read the Label and Understand What's Really in Your Food. And one of the things that I think, Laurie, you were saying, there's a little read the ingredients tip list here. So I'd like to share it with our listeners. So here's how it goes. Read the ingredients. Some questions for you to ponder. 1, do you have to look it up? 2, does it have a number? So does the ingredient have a number? 3, does it have 4 or more syllables? Is it unpronounceable? Does it end in A-T-E? Is it enriched? Is it all capital letters, not words? If you answered yes to any of these questions, don't eat it. So this is from The Pantry Principle by Mira Desi, and she's a nutrition educator. It's a great, great, simple book. She has a blog, and it's called grainsandmore.com, and a podcast now as well, too. So there's, I wanted to share that with us because, I mean, this is part of our education. Like, I didn't know ATE was something I should avoid. So these are the things we'll be sharing. And I wanted to share that with our listeners as you start to look in your pantry for the new year and start slowly upgrading it and moving out some things that no longer serve you, your brain, or your energy levels. So there you have it.
That was great. I'll add something in. Actually, we were traveling to California, not to throw California under the bus, Kathleen. We were traveling to California, and I went into the grocery store with my husband to look at like some butter lettuce. And I just happened to see something that was labeled hydroponic. It was by Gotham, which I didn't know really anything about because I wasn't following that particular brand. So I picked it up and I put it in my cart. And Jim came over and said, "Oh my gosh, why would you put that in the cart?" And I'm like, "What? It says it doesn't have any chemicals." And I did not know that Bill Gates, who's the biggest farmer, who, yes, honestly wants to see us eat printed meat. I didn't know he owned that company. So for parents out there, even just regular adults, if you're looking for foods, lettuce, that is organic or at least non-GMO, stay away from the Gotham, Gotham brand, because it's just not good.
Mm-hmm.
There are other local growers out there, just like Patti was saying, they don't necessarily have the technical, it's organic, but it will say it's not sprayed with herbicides or pesticides. And it's so important that we support local farmers.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my screen's completely frozen, so sorry. But I
we
want to
see
tell
you.
you regarding hydroponics. There's a big fight within the organic certification board, and the original organic farmers are really upset that hydroponics have been accepted into the NOSB as being certifiable organics. The original organic farmers and obviously the regenerative farmers believe that the soil is a critical part of raising our food. And if you take the soil out and you insert whatever vitamins and minerals into the water and the plants get their nutrition that way, many people believe that the nutrition is not adequate and that for food to be truly healthy, it must be raised in soil, so that it has all the minerals and the microbiome, and it benefits from all the plant interactions between the roots and the soil. So for highest nutrition, try to avoid hydroponics. That's what I would recommend. Sometimes you can't, and sometimes they're not marked. A lot of the, say, Driscoll's berries and different berries that you see may be raised hydroponically, and you won't know. But as much as you can, try to buy food that was raised in clean soil. So that's an important observation, and I definitely agree with Laurie. Avoid Gotham greens. It's a little suspect. That is a major hydroponic industrial system of farming, like several stories high, big warehouses, and no soil. So it's definitely a little bit suspect as far as I'm concerned. I would
And
look
a
for
lot
wet
of times
fruit in the dirt.
It also harms like the local farmers who really spend the extra money and put forth the extra effort in order to grow healthier produce for us. Mm-hmm. So really it's, even like on our resource list, there are a lot of local farmers. And Jessica, we can find you in the summertime down at the farmers market in Salt Lake City, and a ton of them, and so does Patti. Mm-hmm. So we could actually add them, to our resource list. But I've got to tell you, for busy parents and you're looking for less expensive things to do with your children, take them to the local farmers market. There are a lot of good things that you can get there inexpensively besides for your food and your produce. There's, local artists who make little cute little tiny bracelets or rings that your children will like. There's a lot of fun things down at the local farmers market. And
There's
teach your
music too,
children
Laurie.
young.
There's lots of music,
Yes.
entertainment, food trucks,
Yep.
coffee trucks.
Seasonal. Yep. So everything that's in season, like that's another thing that we want to do is eat the foods that are in season, because there's a time and there's a place for everything.
For sure.
Yeah, but the one thing I'd like to find is what the farmers are up to during the winter. I know there are farmers that must grow in greenhouses. And I hope that we can find that resource for everyone so that they can continue to buy fresh, locally produced produce.
There's the farmers market here in Salt Lake City has a winter's market.
There you go.
So a lot of it's stored, squashes and things like that. But there are greenhouses. In fact, I talked to my nephew from Vermont today, and he was talking about all the greens he still has going in his greenhouse up in Vermont. So, we're going to end up doing more of that for the winter. And growing your own sprouts. I mean, we can talk about that at another show, but there's a lot we can do too. So, yay.
Yeah. Well, and I wanted to throw into Omar from Rawtopia. I've seen him down at the farmer's market buying produce to go back to the restaurant and make delicious food with it. So.
So that's good. And even there's Russ and Sandra Olson out in Heber Valley, and they have a huge organic garden that they do co-oping with. So, I mean, for anybody who's in the valley or wants to drive to the valley, all you have to really do is go in and just, spend a couple of hours at their farm, and you can help them weed. And once a week, you get a whole bag of organic produce for free. And all you're really doing, and you could take your child there too and start teaching the it's kindness too, is, what we're trying to do. It's just those little kind gestures. And Russ and Sandra are just wonderful people who are actually wanting to heal through foods. And we all know that, Hippocrates said, hey, let food be thy medicine, medicine be thy food. I mean, I'm a believer. I don't really, I'm a Christian. And I don't hold back on saying that. But I am definitely one who says, we should be eating the things that God gave us. And it goes back to Dr. Googling an ingredient. If I have to Google an ingredient, the first step that comes, across my mind is like, I don't think God gave us that. Berries, yes. Apples, yes. Bananas, a whole garden of stuff. But some of the synthetic ingredients, when I have to look at what is chlorine bromelate and do I really want to put it in my gut? And that's another thing I'll mention too, is that our brains, we all look at where ADD is right now in this world. And most parents, again, don't have the time to research. But you heard Patti and I last week kind of talk about Ritalin. Ritalin is technically speed, and you want to go in and believe your medical doctor when a teacher or somebody may say, oh, your kid needs to be on Ritalin, it's hyper. You need to go see your doctor, and your doctor is not disclosing hey, well, maybe it's the foods that you're eating, because our brains consume 33% of all the calories, but 100% of the toxins. So the first place we should be looking at, for all of you who parents that are that have children that are listening, if you have a child who tends to be hyperactive, and listen, the stages of hyperactivity come and go, because sometimes boys will be boys and girls will be girls. But if you have a child 24/7, 365 days a week, and you just can't settle them down, look at your diet.
Right.
Look at the yellow dyes and the red dyes, these things that are known as neurotoxins to the brain, meaning that you're poisoning the brain. take a look at the ingredients
Yes.
and then start weaning out, at least get to the yellow dyes and the red dyes, like popsicles, Lucky Charms. Look at the
Well,
ingredients in Lucky Charms.
Yeah.
Oh,
And I was a Lucky Charm. I craved Lucky Charms when I was 5, but I was 5 and my parents didn't know any better.
right.
Well, probably, Laurie, it was safer to eat at that point too. That was prior to GMOs. I
Oh,
was
there you
listening
go,
to
giving my age away, Kathleen.
well, mine
Yeah.
too. I mean, it's
Agreed
not
on that, though.
it's not
Nope, I
that long
agreed
ago,
on. You know what?
mid-80s.
I think foods were much safer in the 1980s and the 1970s when,
Yeah.
you know, we were younger and growing up than they are now. Foods are definitely more poison.
Well, I was listening to a farmer podcast today, and this one farmer was saying that in the 80s, when Monsanto and all these chemicals came into the farming system, he was at the table with his dad and his grandpa and like another friend of his dad's, and they were talking about how great it was that Monsanto was bringing in these seeds, these genetically modified seeds that everyone could spray with Roundup. And it was a much easier way for farmers to control weeds and still have their crops grow. And so the two middlemen, the dad and the friend were talking about how great that was. And then the grandpa said, well, he said, why would they be selling these chemicals? They're chemical companies. Like, how do you know they're safe? And then the guy's dad and the friend said, well, the industry wouldn't sell them if they weren't safe.
Oh.
They wouldn't sell them if they weren't safe. And the grandpa said, in whose world does it make sense that you would spray crops with poison and eat them and not be poisoning yourselves? And the farmer today, the young farmer who's now a regenerative farmer, he said there was just silence at the table. There was like no answer for that, and that's something I don't really understand, like that mentality. Like, it doesn't go away. It's in the food.
Right.
So don't eat it.
Well,
But
yeah.
that's what bioengineered food is. It's
exactly. And it's the food
Made
industry.
right.
Yeah. And our body doesn't know what to do with those toxins. And
of course
our
not.
immune system is like, there's an invader, there's an invader, there's an invader. It sends out our little guys to go and kill these invaders. But when we just keep on feeding and feeding and feeding our body all these toxins, it can't handle it.
Yeah.
It's you're talking about how your body can't handle these toxins. I'll give you a little science here. So the colon, which is the large intestines, in a healthy person, it is 4 inches in circumference. But the colon has the ability to expand to 10 inches in circumference because it's capable of holding that much crud. And I think, Patti, you might have had a good word when we were talking earlier, but it's capable of holding that much crud. So think about what I'm saying. That's 6 inches of holding on to toxins. And then we look at the rise right now in colon cancer. Well, if your body is burdened with 6 inches of crud in the large intestines and it can't be excreted out, which obviously God gave us a way to excrete the foods that we're eating. I mean, when you talk about 6 inches of crud, if the doctors would only share the word elimination or the word detoxification, because I look at detoxification really as a lifestyle change.
Mm-hmm.
So we can continue to eat all of these poisons, and if our body isn't capable of eliminating them, then what we do is we reabsorb them into our body, which they're more toxic the second time they go around. And we see the rising stats right now in autoimmune diseases. And there's so many buckets of unknown autoimmune diseases right now, but we know it's out there. We know it's true. We see the work, that RFK, Robert F. Kennedy, is doing out there. I love his work that he's doing. He's educating for free. You can go to his website, and he's educating for free really on what is happening in in big ag and big pharma, and it's not a conspiracy theorist type of thing. It's actually true science. You can go to PubMed and find the documents in there.
Yes.
But the problem is we can't find the truth anymore on Dr. Google. And I think that,
Right.
I'm so proud that Doug Yaman has given us and the others opportunities to be able to kind of talk about what mainstream media wants to shut us up about. You can't really post anything on YouTube and talk about the poisons without, well, at least I can't, without my YouTube channel, getting taken down. And there's not enough people who honestly really know, like, a lot of people go over to Rumble, but a lot of people like to listen to radio and internet radio. So it's all about their getting to spread the word and
Right.
letting our listeners listen to the truth on
Right.
what we're trying to empower them with, and easy recipes that Patty's going to be
Right.
sharing, and what Kathleen is going to be, talking about, that poisons actually first start in the soil. And the stuff that Jessica will lead, how do you teach your child mindfulness when they come in and their world is crazy because somebody at school wants to socially abuse them? What do you do for these children? And we look at where the suicide rates are in the state of Utah. They are at an all-time high, and these
Yes.
emergency room doctors have nowhere to go. And they probably aren't even familiar with, let's give these kids, more protein foods. Let's educate the parents about protein foods. When you're deficient in some of these amino acids we're going to be talking about, we hope and pray that the light bulb goes on for people, that they can start connecting the dots. Because right now, it's hard to find it's hard to find the research on it.
Something else that's driving me crazy along those lines is with this Roundup. People assume it's safe because the government allows it to be sold, but it's not safe. The way it works to kill weeds is it breaks down the shikimate pathway in the plants. And when they first started selling Roundup, they said, well, humans don't have shikimate pathways, so we don't have to worry about that so it won't affect us. But our gut flora has a shikimate pathway, just like plants. And no one's really talking about this, but the glyphosate does affect us because it affects our gut flora, which we need to be robust in order to be not only physically healthy, but also mentally well. And I think there's a link between eating small amounts of poison every day in your food and maybe not being as well as you could be. And I hope that we'll all get into that and that connection between our food and our overall well-being.
Right. And Kathleen, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but isn't it like one dropper of Roundup in an Olympic-sized pool has the ability to change the chemistry of the water?
Well, I know that one drop of glyphosate in 3 Olympic-sized swimming pools can start cancer cells to grow. So it's just a minuscule amount causes different health problems. Yes, Laurie.
And so just think about what's happening in our foods. It's not just one drop of glyphosate or one drop of glufosinate or one drop of Liberty herbicides. It's many different types of herbicides and pesticides that are being sprayed on this conventional farming. And then it goes to the market, and then we as consumers buy it. And the consumers who don't have the time to research what these herbicides and pesticides are, taking them home. They think that they can wash it off, it's false. You cannot wash Roundup or any of the other herbicides off of produce that farmers have been spraying, because they don't just spray once. They're spraying 2 or 3 or 4 times, multiple times during the growing season. And you can't wash it off. You can't take a lemon water. You can't take a vinegar and just wash it off. I mean, it's just it's false information out there. But one drop, I always say, would you put it on a spoon, one drop, and feed it to your child?
Yeah.
100% of the time, parents say no, but that is exactly what is happening when you're buying conventional foods off of the dirty dozen, which means it's the 12 dirtiest foods out there. Those are the foods that parents at least need to be buying organic, or even if you can't afford a strawberry in the off season, then don't pick a strawberry, pick something on the Clean 15. But don't think that you can take an apple that has been sprayed multiple times and scrub it off with a scrubber and expect to scrub off the poison. Anyone want to comment and add?
Go ahead, Jessica, and then I'll go.
Yeah, so I think that it's really important, like what you said, that visual, Laurie, of you wouldn't take a drop and put it on a spoon and give it to your child. And we can't wash it off because our food is porous. It gets in there, it's porous. Our food is alive.
Mm-hmm.
Our food is alive. And so it goes back to the whole thing that I talked about with the mindful eating too, right? With the paper, like thinking about that piece of paper.
I'll give you the number.
Yeah. So thinking about the piece of paper and everything that goes into it, and that's everything that goes into our food, right?
Might be under call-in or something like that.
Yes.
Laurie, you're not muted.
We can hear you, Laurie.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was on my other phone. There's somebody calling my cell phone to call in, and I'm like, no, not my cell phone.
The wrong
Not
number.
not my personal cell phone number.
So the dirty dozen, I was just pulling it up and looking at it. So that's strawberries, spinach, kale, peaches, pears, nectarines, apples, grapes, bell peppers, cherries, blueberries, and green beans.
Mm.
So all of those ones need to be purchased organically. And I don't know about you guys, but I cannot eat strawberries. If I eat strawberries that are not organic, my mouth breaks out.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So you're having a reaction then to the herbicides.
Yeah. So that's important to think about, right? If you're eating something and you're having a reaction, why are you having that reaction?
Right. It's so, Kathleen, let me ask you. I mean, we probably have some like farmers and gardeners listening on the call. Give us some tips and tricks on the regenerative farming. That seems like with Gabe Brown, it's really big right now. Even Dr. Zach Bush. Give us a little tips on what that is.
Yeah, I wanted to go back to Jessica's point. If any of you want to look it up, it's the environmentalworkinggroup.com, and you can find those lists of fruits and veggies that are sort of safer to purchase and so on. But the regenerative movement is about focusing on the soil health first in farming. For so long, we've been kind of ignoring soil health, and farmers have been, and I'm not meaning to denigrate them at all, but what the chemical industry has proposed and gotten into our ag university programs and everywhere else, and what they sell everywhere are packages of treated seeds coated in pesticides and antifungals and different products, and they're sold as a set with the chemical herbicides and so on that go with them, to which the seeds have been genetically engineered to resist. So the chemical industry wants to sell a lot of chemicals, and for so many years they've told farmers, go spray your fields, spray your crops with these pesticides, and it'll be more convenient for you raising crops. Use these nitrogen fertilizers to sort of perk up your crops and make them look green. But no one's really been paying that much attention to what's going on underneath in the soil. And the regenerative farmers generally are finding that they get to cut out the chemicals. They don't need the nitrogen inputs. They don't need the chemical herbicides, and then they don't need the fungicides. They don't have problems with molds, mycotoxins, and disease. They have healthier, more resilient plants because the soil is healthier. They're focusing on the soil health. So it's a completely old-fashioned and yet modern way of farming. And the farmers are actually making money because they're not spending as much on the chemical inputs. It's a huge savings. And then on the other end, when they sell their products to people, they are healthier and people will pay a premium for those crops. So the regenerative movement is about paying attention to what's in the soil to create higher nutrient dense foods that don't need the chemical inputs. So it's very exciting. It's very exciting. But a lot of it is farming in the ways of our grandfathers and incorporating animals, rotating them through the crops to create natural fertilizer, to tend to the soil. A lot of farmers will run, chickens, pigs, sheep through their fields, not at the same time, and then they let their field recover and they heal the soil. And then they have a robust, healthy place to raise their crops, and the plants are healthier, more resistant to drought, heat, hail, what have you. And then when the crop is harvested, we have healthier food for ourselves. So it's a win-win all around.
How can people, is there a website in particular that somebody could go just to start doing research on that?
Well, I have this book. Can you see this? Holding it up.
What's it called?
What Your Food Ate.
Exactly.
Love
It's
that
back-
title.
Right.
It's backwards. Is that the back of the
Oh, is
book?
it David Montgomery? No, it's
Okay.
something's going on with my camera today, but it's called What Your Food Ate by David Montgomery and his wife, Endiicott. And also on YouTube, or he's also written a book. There's a farmer named Gabe Brown, and he has an outfit called Understanding Ag, and they do farm consulting. And they have so much demand from farmers right now that they can't keep up with demand. They can't keep enough staff on to help all the farmers that are calling in wanting to convert. A few years
Ooh, that's
ago,
exciting.
it's very exciting. A few
Wow.
years ago, when the movie Kiss the Ground came out on Netflix,
Ooh.
he's one of the featured farmers in that movie. You can still see it. It's still streaming on Netflix. You can learn a lot about the principles in regenerative movement by watching that on Netflix. Gabe is featured, and at that point, he was consulting over 0 acres, just his own farm. And it was his goal to get out and spread the word to other farmers. And now he's consulting on 34 million acres in the US.
Wow.
And his goal is to go to 100 million. And there's a second film coming out that's screening sort of locally right now called Common Ground. And that film will also be streaming online. I think it might be Amazon coming up shortly. But, there are films. You can go on YouTube and see lots of talks by Gabe Brown. You can go to his website, Understanding Ag. If you're a farmer and you're looking for advice or consultation, you can go to his website. Gabe wrote a book that's a bestseller called From Dirt to Soil, which was his journey from being a conventional farmer and nearly going bankrupt using conventional methods. And then his discovery of regenerative methods, which was by necessity to save his farm. It's a great book, From Dirt to Soil. And there's another farmer from Georgia, Will Harris, and he's just come out with a new book. I'm sorry, I can't think of the title of it right now, but it's available anywhere at Barnes & Noble. I picked up one at Barnes & Noble as a gift for someone. Will Harris is another great leading regenerative farmer, and he's got videos all over. He was on Joe Rogan recently. I think he's been on Joe Rogan 2 or 3 times, talking about the food markets and what it's like from a farmer and rancher's perspective. And this movement is really catching on. I mean, it's becoming a tsunami because at the same time that consumers are looking for healthier foods, farmers are looking for healthier, more profitable ways to farm. And regenerative farming pencils out so they can actually make a living. Farmers have been struggling for so long with these chemical systems, which in the end are very expensive to run. And I think there's a huge trend toward regenerative, but we have to be careful. The chemical industry is trying to get in on it and say, well, we're regenerative too. And they're trying to greenwash. So we'll have to be careful with that.
Yeah, that's good information. And for the viewers out there that are just listening to us, you could call in for Q&A. The number is 385-899-4669. 2134. Again, it's 385-899-2134. And I believe we've got some callers, so we're going to switch over to Q&A right now.
Hey, Wellness Crusaders. I got Thomas George from Cleveland, Ohio calling. Thomas, what is the question that you have for our Wellness Crusaders?
I know you've spoken quite a bit about glyphosate, but my question is that's the main ingredient of the Roundup product, and I was wondering if you could comment on all the other chemicals that are also included in that packet, and whether or not there are other surfactants and things like that that are also used in glufosinate and other so-called toxic herbicides, and what the effects are.
I'll take that. I will tell you that at least in terms of Roundup, what's most widely documented is that it breaks down after it's used into something called AMPA, which is even more toxic than the Roundup formulation with glufosinate. And the lawsuits, the recent Monsanto Roundup lawsuits, were lawsuits based on the complete formulation of Roundup. Nobody completely knows what's in Roundup because it's considered proprietary. I do know a scientist in Europe who reverse engineered it, and he told me that he found the three main ingredients were petroleum waste, arsenic, and glyphosate. That's what he told me. But as far as I know, nobody's gone and done any further reverse engineering. But even if that were not, documented by 100 scientists, we know that glyphosate or Roundup does cause cancer in testing, and even glyphosate is a carcinogen. The WHO, the IARC, International Agency for Research on Cancer, did declare that that glyphosate, the main ingredient in Roundup, is a carcinogen in itself, and we know what glyphosate and Roundup do on the other end after they're used, not only to humans, but also to the soil and the soil biology and all the animals. There have been a lot of animal tests done, and it's just not good. So, and glufosinate is the active ingredient. It's not a product called Roundup. That product is typically called Cheetah Pro, although it's in many different herbicide brands out there that are used both in landscaping and in crops. And that was Bayer's big invention for the genetically modified crops. And glufosinate is another dangerous chemical. And the really worrisome thing is that we touched on it earlier, but these chemicals are used with this herbicide and that herbicide and that herbicide, and farmers, I sympathize with them because they're battling weeds, but they are mixing these products together, and all of that blend is never tested by the EPA or anyone else. So you don't really know what you're eating when you eat conventional produce, which may have layers of different kinds of herbicides. Sorry.
So if I may, is that to say that the product itself has not really been tested? It's just that glyphosate itself has been tested over and over again?
Glyphosate has been tested, yes, and it's been found to cause cancer. And glyphosate is what's known as the active ingredient in Roundup. But the rest of the rest of the ingredients are technically proprietary. And the entire formulation of Roundup has never been tested by the EPA for safety. They only looked at glyphosate. The only event, that came out where it was looked at as an entire formulation were these recent lawsuits that Monsanto and Bayer continue to lose because they've been found to cause cancer as a blend. The Roundup blend has been found to cause cancer. but these companies don't list every one of their ingredients, so you just can't know.
It feels like they're just killing it softly.
Pretty much. And you know, McDonald's, there was an article
Thank you
that
very
came,
much.
You
there
so
was an
welcome.
article that came
Thank you.
out, you know, that Jim read over on one of the sites that, you know, with McDonald's.
Awesome. Thank you, Thomas, for calling in.
Oh.
And please make sure to check in with us next time at 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time.
Thanks, DJ Flyboy. Anyway, going back to the McDonald's.
Thank you for calling the Wellness Crusaders.
Hey,
This is Layton. What question do you have for the Wellness Crusaders?
Flyboy, you're not muted.
We're on.
Remove sugar from my diet.
Awesome. Let me let them know that we have another caller, and I'll put you right on. And what is your name, real quickly?
My name is Mike.
All right, as we're waiting for Leighton to come in, so McDonald's, with the chemical that they spray on their potatoes to get rid of the little aphids, the little red bugs on it, after they spray their potatoes, they are not allowed to go back into the field for 6 days. Think about what I'm saying.
That's not just McDonald's, Laurie.
No,
That's
I know.
standard practice for all
I know.
potatoes.
It was the article that we actually read was on McDonald's, although I'm sure Burger King's doing it as well.
All potatoes. All potatoes.
So just to get rid of the brown spots on the potatoes. So it looks like we've got another call.
All right. Hey, ladies. All right. I have Michael here. He has a question about removing sugar. Michael, what is the exact question you have for Wellness Crusaders?
Okay, it's actually a two-part question. That's really just one question. Basically, you know, with the holiday season and all the sweets that are around, it's like I've done a really good job at removing sugar from my diet, but then I've had all the sweets, and then I just feel like, oh no, I got to break this like addiction again. But the other question I had is, what do you suggest for children also to help them get away from sugar?
So, Leighton, can you repeat that first question?
I'm sorry, you couldn't hear him, or?
Yeah, no, the first question I didn't understand.
Okay,
I heard
so
the question. I heard the question on child.
Basically for adults is how to remove sugar from the diet, and the second was for children.
Yeah, how to remove sugar from the blood in their diet? Is that what you're saying, Michael?
No, I'm just saying, like, with the sweets that are coming around and everything now in the holidays, it's like I started eating sugar again, and I have gotten away from it. I'm just asking for a suggestion.
Oh, you know what? I'll start that. That. So sugar is very addicting. And part of it is the food manufacturers want you eating their product. So if you're not able to see how, let's just say you go to a family event, and we've all struggled with this ourselves, and we were just talking about this today. If you have the ability, and I know that families are really busy and sometimes you don't have the ability to make something, but if you know you're going to a family event and it's going to be kind of laden with Christmas cookies or New Year's cookies and cakes and things like that, a good alternative would be, and then Pati, I'll have you kind of chime in with this because sugar is harmful to the brain. I always like to remind people that 4 grams of sugar on a package is like eating 1 teaspoon of sugar. So if you think of 4 grams as 1 packet of sugar and you're eating it, if you can take something a little bit healthier with you, then that's really a good place to start. on there. It's not always easy to do that. So maybe even starting at buying a couple healthier options at one of your local natural type grocery stores and taking something like that with you. And if that's not an option, then limiting, try to fill your plate with what you're eating first, with more protein foods and greens on it, and try to limit. It's hard to do. I'm not going to say that it's easy to do, but try to limit the sugar that's on your plate. So maybe you tell yourself, listen, I'm going to have 2 cookies and not 5 cookies. Or in Jessica's case, I'm going to have 4 cookies and not 30. All those are gluten-free and organic. But try to pack something and come prepared so that when you're there, you're not bombarded with all of the multiple sugar options. And you could do the same thing with the child, although sometimes a kid is just going to grab, whatever sugary substance is there because they're kids. Try not to have them grab sugary stuff that have the red dyes and the yellow dyes, because those immediately go to their brain, and you will see hyperactivity after a child eats something with the food colorings in there. So to recap that, try to make something a little healthier yourself and bring it as your side dish. And if you don't have time to do that, stop at a local grocer's and look for something that's a healthier option. And if you can't do that, try to fill up your plate with some protein food and greens, and try to teach and educate, the children who matter so much, to choose wisely by educating them, at least getting the red dyes and the yellow dyes and all of those dyes that we know kill the brain cells. Try to teach them on healthier options, because not everything on the table is going to be super sweet, even though there are a lot. It's hard to do, especially when you're at holiday events and other family members really aren't being aware. They just want to make their sugar cookies. Listen, a powdered cookie is better than a sugar cookie sprinkled with red and greens and yellows on it, because those sprinkles have food dyes in them. Patti, do you have anything that you want to add? Or
I do. Yes, I do. Hi, Michael. Thanks for the question. It's a good one. And yes, we talked about that earlier about, creating healthier treats, that are still sweet, right? But if you're not baking or making those, I would say, like, just piggyback on Laurie, protein first, treat second. And that's what I would do with my kid. I would just say, hey, protein first, treat second. So one of the things you could do is get some of those meat sticks. There's some really good ones. Chomps is pretty good, but the other one I like is from Vermont, and they have chicken and they have turkey, and they're soft and they're clean. And I just carry those in my bag with me, especially when I'm around my nephew's kids, because they're starving when I pick them up from school and they want a treat. And I'm like, nope, protein first, treat second. So just getting protein in for yourself and for your child, or, a child that you're caring for. I hope that helps, but getting protein in reduces the sugar craving. And then you won't eat as many cookies because you've got the protein going in first, and then, you can have a treat second. And like Laurie said, look for the healthier, cookies that might have, nut butters in them or something like that, and not all the color dyes and stuff, because those things are just a nightmare for all of us, but particularly for young people.
And Michael, we'll be sharing like more tips and tricks for children as we go along in our podcast, as well as sharing some books. We were talking about that today, some kid books where you can actually, start teaching the children. I mean, I have a 6-year-old granddaughter, and I bought a new book on foolery, the fox, and how he tricked people coming in and working for his fast food warehouse. And a 6-year-old loved the book, and she didn't really know anything about it. But we'll be sharing more tips and tricks. That is a good one. You can actually email us too at the info@wellnesscrusaders.com, and we can definitely provide some more information on that.
Laurie, I want to add in that book that my kids read called The Gulps, Gulps, a really cute story about a family that goes camping and figures out how to completely change their diet. So yeah, we'll have those references for you on our site.
I also want to add something to that too. So looking for some of the healthier sweet alternatives, which would be like honey, monk fruit, stevia, or natural fruits, dates, grapes. Frozen grapes are amazing to help curb some of those sugar cravings too, or even frozen blueberries. So opting for just better choices.
Nice.
Okay, good. Thank you. I really appreciate all of your advice.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Michael.
Thanks for calling.
Thank you for calling, Michael, and please make sure to check in next week at 4 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. We'll be going live then again also.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, Wellness Crusaders, I have another caller here. It is Bob Swanson from Florida. Bob Swanson, what question do you have for our Wellness Crusaders?
Hi, ladies. My doctor told me that I have high cholesterol, beginning stages of some fat in my arteries, and I was told I should try to clean up my diet. He wanted to put me on Lipitor, but I experienced muscle cramps and fatigue with it, so I quit taking it.
Okay, so your question is on cholesterol. Is that correct? On how to bring it down?
Naturally, yes.
Okay. Well, just so that everybody knows, we're not here to give really medical advice. We can definitely give you some tips and tricks on how to do that. We always say to check with your functional medicine doctor or your health practitioner, whoever you're working with. And you can also email us, and there's several of us that would be willing to help you on a one-on-one basis. But definitely, I will say that I personally have struggled with this in the last month or two, and I eat healthy and 100% organic. But one of the things that you can check with your functional medicine doctor is to really go into the root cause. Do you have a genetic gene that maybe you have inherited and it should be covered by your normal health insurance? But if you have a genetic gene that is more of a sticky protein, you might want to write this down if you want, or you can always email in, but it's called lipoprotein, and it's a little a. And basically, if you've inherited that gene from your mom or your dad, a lot of times it becomes hereditary. And then you want to take a look at, some of the foods that have the bad fats in them. I'm talking canola oil and some of those type of fats. If you're not having foods that have the good oils in there, it definitely could be, I'm going to use this word because that's pretty much what it is. If you have a sticky protein, it could definitely be clumping up. You may want to consider, grass-fed, grass-finished with your local grocers, things like that. You may want to consider even maybe just doing a jump start for the new year, a healthier you, and do 30 days of just, doing fruits and vegetables that also contain the amino acids that we were talking about earlier. We definitely would be able to provide you more information on cholesterol. There are some great supplements out there that you may be lacking in, but really without knowing all the facts, I would definitely venture in to your local grocery store. Start reading some of the labels. Make sure you don't have some of the more poisonous fats like canola oil or sunflower seed.
Oh,
Mhm.
well, we just,
Sunflower seed oil. We love
Yep.
Laurie.
On that, but we would definitely love to help you. Does anybody there have any inside on that, as far as really just starting off with the simple foods, visiting your local grocery store, taking a look at labels, which we would be happy to help you on a one-on-one basis on that?
well, I'd like to add
Would I
something.
read the labels looking for what? Like lower cholesterol things, or is there some type of supplements that are natural that are people take, or some kind of food they eat that helps bring down your numbers naturally?
Hey, Leighton, I can't hear the caller.
Hold on, Bob. We're
Can
trying
anybody
to.
hear me? I can't hear. Oop. Patty, I can't hear you. Oops, we've had a glitch.
Can you hear
I
me?
can-
Sorry, yeah, we had a.
Leighton?
I can hear you guys. Hold on, I'm letting Bob know we're having some technical difficulties here.
I can.
All right, well, I think we've lost that caller. I don't know if any of you can hear me. I can't
I
hear
can.
any of you.
I
Yes.
can hear you. I can.
I
hear
don't
you.
know if the caller can hear us on there. DJ Flyboy, can you repeat his question?
Can you hear me, guys, gals?
Yes, I hear you.
Okay.
I can hear you, Patty.
Okay, great. So I just want to add, while we're waiting for Bob to come back, Bob, I would also, if you can still hear us.
The foods that I would be recommending would be foods lower in cholesterol, and but being able to get your protein. And I really think without like being able to talk one-on-one with you and knowing what your eating habits are and what you like and what you don't like, there are supplements like berberine that can help lower the cholesterol opposed to Lipitor on there. And again, I think I've lost the caller. So DJ Flyboy, we can't hear anything.
Hey, yeah, sorry. Looks like the.
Berberine, we would be more than happy to send you information. If you can hear me, just email us at info@wellnesscrusaders.com.
Okay, yeah, it looks like he hung up a
And
little
I
bit
can't
ago.
hear Kathleen or Jessica or Patty.
Laurie, yeah, I can hear everybody, but
Patty, in case he can hear, Patty, you started to give some suggestions.
Yes. So,
DJ Flyboy? All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap up technical difficulties on our end. I can't hear my other co-hosts, even though they can hear me. We are not muted, and unfortunately, I can't hear the rest of the callers. So if you can hear me, please feel free to shoot us an email at info@wellnesscrusaders.com, or you can find us next Thursday from 4 to 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. But for now, we hope you have a beautiful, blessed New Year. And we really look forward to our wellness journey with you in 2024. So have a beautiful evening and a beautiful New Year. Goodbye for now.
bye everyone.